Hello and welcome to IS Primers. Now, recently, the government of India has decided to constitute an all new ministry for the cooperative society. So, a ministry of cooperation would be formed with the sole mission or the vision of Sehkar se Samriddhi. Sehkar meaning cooperative or co worker, and Samriddhi meaning prosperity. So cooperative society is going to be a very important topic given that a all new ministry is being formed and there are going to be a lot of opinions, articles being written on this. And then the cooperative society is also mentioned in India's constitution. So an amendment was made known as the 97th Amendment by which cooperative societies were added to fundamental right as well as directive principle of state policy. So Article 19(1)(c), that is FR, so it says that right to form associations, unions or cooperative societies is a fundamental right. And then the directive principle of state policy, which is basically a set of instructions or a guidance to the government. So in this it says that the state shall endeavor to promote the functioning and the management of the cooperative societies. So whenever you're writing your answer, you can just quote 19 and 43b with reference to cooperative societies. Now coming to the thorough analysis on this topic, cooperative societies. Now in India's case, cooperative society is seen as a way of encouraging inclusive development. So it's seen as a way of inclusive development, that too in remote locations, remote areas. So let us see how. Let's take a case of a person who, in rural India, a majority of farmers that are there, people are there, are dependent on agricultural based income, agriculture or allied income. And then about 85% of this is small and marginal farmer. So let's say such a person is engaged in, he doesn't have land, so he decides to sell milk. Now to sell milk, he will have to produce milk. So he will have to arrange for cows, he would have to arrange for a shed for the cows, upkeep, as well as food. So a lot of resources, lot of money is required, but this person is of limited means, limited resources. So he will have to borrow money. So we can call this as working capital. So he'll be borrowing it from banks. And ultimately this produce would be sold to the markets. Now this is not so simple. See, this person is a disadvantaged, very disadvantaged over here because he doesn't have the means over here. So when the bank wants to, when he goes to the bank to have credit or money, the banks will be unwilling to lend. And even if they lend, it will be at a high rate of interest. Likewise, he will have difficulty in arranging for the cow, shed, food, etc. This is all very expensive. And at the end of it, when he goes to the market, he would be disadvantaged because he would have limited way of bargaining. So at every process we see that this person is prone to get exploited. Now what if, there are large number of people who would be wanting to do dairy business, but they do not have the means. So what if with the initiative of these people, they come together? So this organization, this collective is known as cooperative. So these people collectively come together and let's say they decide to have the dairy business. Now when they approach the bank for the working capital, the bank would be more than keen because the bank knows that collectively the accountability of these people is much more. So they will be able to return their money with interest. And likewise, when they pool resources, they will be able to afford the means of production. So land, cow, shed, all, it will be much easier when collectively people do it. And lastly, when they go to the marketplace, they will be able to bargain better. So this brings them to the advantage. So as a single person, he was disadvantaged, but as a collective or as a cooperative, they are in a position of advantage. Now coming to the benefits over here. So first thing that we see is that there is collective ownership. And then since these people are working collectively, they are enjoying the benefits of economies of scale. They are producing at a much larger level and collectively. So the cost of production will also come down and they will have better bargaining power, and then every individual is accountable for, is responsible for the well functioning of the cooperative. Now, when we talk about the participation, it is voluntary. Nobody has been forced, so they have come by their own will. So when they come by their own choice, own will, the rate of success is always better. And then over here, they are functioning on the basis of democracy. See, collectively, when they have to take a decision, when they have to do anything, they will go on the basis of consensus, right? Or they would go on the basis of a vote. So each member having one vote. So one member, one vote over here. So this means that it will aid equality in the society, especially in rural society where people belong to, where the caste ties are very, very strong, caste, religion, etc. So segregation takes place. But here people are coming together from different groups. They're coming together, sit together and do business. And not just, it doesn't end here, the families also come together. So it will aid equality and everybody is equal over here, consensus or vote. So this aids social integration. It promotes poverty reduction because collectively people are doing business, so profitability is more. And then it is a people-based movement. So very important point. So any initiative which is a people-based initiative or a community-led movement, it is likely to be a success. So government also takes a lot of interest in such initiatives. So these are the viewpoints of the United Nations, by the way. So quite legitimate points. Next, having a cooperative society, when they work collectively, they do not have that bureaucratic issues, that this protocol has to be followed, that thing has to be done. Like in a corporate sector, every department has their own set of protocols or regulations. Or if you're a college going student, you would know, if you want a report card or something, you have to do this, that, application from this, so many things are there. So this is quite cumbersome. So this reduces the bureaucratic intricacies. So therefore this enterprise would be more spontaneous. So it will be able to adapt to the changes in the market and still remain profitable. Then this is based on the principle of mutual assistance. It is based on mutual assistance and collective ownership. So what people do is, like, let's say this person is not good in certain dairy activity, or this person is better in marketing activity. So they train each other. They train and assist each other in their activities, and as a result, there is upskilling of workforce. So the human capital also improves alongside the economic capital, and actually social capital also. And lastly, the cooperatives, to strengthen them, the state takes certain measures so that the cooperative function well over here. So in this reference, I just want to state this, that when it comes to the cooperative society, it is the domain of the state legislature, not the center but the state. So this is specified in the 7th schedule of India's constitution. So they are responsible for the incorporation, regulation, winding up, whatever. It is the domain of the state government. So they pass laws time to time to strengthen the working of the cooperatives. Now, this was a very simple structure of the cooperative, right? People come together, very simple arrangement. But in practice, the cooperatives are not so simple. There are a large number of people that come together. I'm not able to show in this illustration, but you can imagine it's a large number of people come together. So it is difficult to make decisions, to conduct day-to-day activities. So for that purpose, these people elect a certain individual. They elect a certain individual or a group of individuals, which is known as the management committee or board, right? So the members are known as board members, and they are the executive, like the CEO, etc. These are the people. And from time to time, the cooperative becomes more and more complex. As you can see over here, more and more people, as the thing succeeds, more and more people associate with the cooperative. So this brings certain concerns also, like the concern of active membership. So inability to ensure active membership, that is the major issue when it comes to the functioning of the cooperative societies. So these points that I've referred to are from there was a committee that was constituted in 2009. So I have taken those points, and this was the first issue that they flagged. High-powered committee on reviewing the cooperative societies. So inability to ensure active membership. That means that people are not actively engaging in the functioning of the cooperative. So as and when the cooperative becomes more and more complex, bigger and bigger, so this principle automatically gets sidelined. Rather, we see that the executive, the board and the management committee, that becomes all the more strong. So this is a problem because it affects the principle of the functioning of the democracy over here. Mutual assistance, collective ownership. Now, even though they may be collectively owning it, but then actual power is with the board. So this is a major drawback. Second is, there have been serious inadequacies seen in the governance, especially when it comes to the functioning of the board members. So this needs to be corrected. Then, when it comes to the functioning of the cooperatives, as we have already mentioned, it is the tool of inclusive development. But then the policy makers, and when I say policy makers means experts, I am talking about the government, they have not shown that initiative of using cooperative societies as a means of inclusive development. So this is a concern. And this also happens when public is not associated or concerned with this development. So there is a need to encourage public awareness on this front. And then there is the inability, when it comes to the corporates, there is the inability to attract and retain competent professionals. See, when I told you about the dairy workers over here, right? So in the cooperative society, some of them are very evolved, so they do have, but then many of the cooperatives do not have competent professionals. So let's say these dairy people that we're talking about over here. So any cooperative, any organization needs dedicated professionals like people for marketing, people for sales, people. Now marketing is also far more complex, right? Digital marketing, search engine optimization, all those things. Then they need people who are experts in the field of finance, accounting, all those things, production related, dairy related. So there should be focus on having, these people are not able to attract competent professionals. One, they do not have the skills, so they have to attract people, but because the profitability is low, they are not able to pay them the hefty salaries like a corporate would be able to give. Then another problem when it comes to the functioning of the cooperative society is the lack of capital formation. Capital formation means, as the name goes, capital. So this means investments, it means creation of new buildings, new machinery, etc. So only when these things get added on, the enterprise would become more profitable. But in our case, what is happening is, in the case of cooperatives, there is the clause of income tax. So the profits of the cooperative societies are subject to income tax provisions. So tax is deducted. So what these cooperatives do is, they pass on the profits to its members to avoid paying the income tax. So as a result, no profit is retained. So when no profit is retained, there is no money for investment. So no capital formation takes place. Next, since no capital formation is taking place, competent professionals are not being attracted, and there is also, people are getting segregated, right? Active membership is not there. Therefore, the cost competitiveness is a question mark over here. They are not able to have the right cost competitiveness when it comes to the market requirements. And the biggest concern of all is the politicization of the cooperative societies. Politicization. So let me cover this one first. In fact, many of the politicians are associated with the cooperative societies. Thing is that, this elections that takes place to the boards, so many of the politicians see this as a small battleground where they try to prove their strength. So in their political ladder, this is one of the initial steps. And most of the political leaders try to have a seat in various cooperative societies, especially the good ones. So I don't want to name, some names are already clicking here. So politicization of the cooperative societies is a concern. So when politics comes into play, it affects the efficacy of the cooperative as well as the principle of inclusivity. Outsiders are coming and commanding the functioning of the cooperative society rather than the people, the people who are concerned with the enterprise. So outsiders, like outside politicians, are managing these things. And likewise, because of the state control and the laws that are passed, sometimes bureaucrats are deputed in the cooperatives. So government functionaries are deputed who are not concerned with the people at large. So they are not from the people, but it is somebody who is imposed on the cooperative. So this also affects the functioning. In fact, it affects the basic notion of the cooperative societies to work on the principles of democracy and people participation. Now coming to the way forward over here, we need to first of all reform the issue of state control. See, when we are talking about a cooperative, so cooperative, when it goes to the market, it is competing with the corporates. There is no hiding over here. And the cooperatives are at a disadvantage because the cooperatives are being governed by, in different states, they have different laws. So different state laws. And then there are restrictions on buying and selling. But corporates are regulated on the basis of a single act, that is Companies Act. So it's quite simple, while for the cooperatives, they are at a disadvantage. Then there are issues when it comes to the functioning of the board members. There are the issues of corruption, politicization, etc. So in this reference, there should be a single act. Now as I have said earlier, it is under the domain of the state legislature. So there should be a single Model Cooperatives Act. So this was even constituted based on the recommendations of Brahm Prakash Committee report. Brahm Prakash. So a committee was formed, and that has been recommended by this high-powered committee in 2009. So this should be formed, and for all the states there should be a uniform legislation which will clearly define the rights and privileges of the stakeholders, the responsibilities of the board members and the cooperatives, etc. So a single legislation should be there. And if the states do not implement this, then in that case, it recommends that center take initiative, and with the cooperation of the state, they can have a single law across the country. So there are ways of doing things. So this can be done. Second is, there is a need to infuse professionalism. Right? This was a concern that was expressed in point number 4. So infusing professionalism by giving the cooperatives the option of co-opting professional individuals. So many states, professionals are not being allowed. So this has to be done over here. So this law should make the provision of this. Then, when it comes to the politicization and the excessive role of the government, it can be done by ways such as rotational retirement. So once a person has become a board member, he cannot become later on, or a person has to retire after 3 years, 4 years, whatever. So a person cannot retain a seat for his life, entire life, like certain people have been able to do. And then there should be restrictions on political and religious organizations when it comes to contesting elections or whatever, when it comes to the board of the cooperative societies. And the state government should refrain from deputing officers to cooperative societies. Then, see, this is a people's movement, so there is a need to sensitize the members of their rights, of their privileges, and of their obligations towards the cooperative. Then only this enterprise would succeed. And there should be focus on participation of women and youth. So youth should be encouraged, and gender equality is always beneficial. And there should be budgetary provisions for soft loans. One of the problems that the cooperatives face is availability of financing. So this is one of the major hurdles. So there can be dedicated schemes at the level of state or at the center which aims to provide soft loans. Soft loans means easy conditions of giving loans at a low rate of interest. So this will be beneficial if we want to promote cooperative societies. And then there should be full exemption on income tax. Remember, I told you about the income tax, how it is not supporting the capital formation to take place. So if income tax is completely removed, then in that case it will aid capital formation. So this was all that I have on this topic of cooperative societies in India. So please prepare it. This is going to be a very important topic, and I've added the points from various recommendations from the websites of the UN, etc. So this is going to be highly beneficial to you. So this is all, and please do like, share and subscribe. And you're watching IS Primers with me, Shubhashish Singh Rehal. Bye bye, take care and all the best.